a snare? Shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth a snare? Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. Reference, the King James Version, Holy Bible, the 1611 edition, the book called John, and chapter 1, and verses 1 and 2. So therefore, what is the mystery? That is the question. Well, the mystery is in the letter, the English's letter. One English letter out of 26 that the English people have placed upon their vocabulary to name them the English alphabets, the English's alphabets from A to Z. However, what is the mystery of John chapter 1 and verses 1 and 2? I repeat, the mystery is the letter, the 14th English's letter of their alphabet chart that is known as a homophone. And that homophone, which means words that sound alike but are spelled differently with different meanings. And therefore, in this case, the 14th English's letter that is a homophone of this mystery is known as the letter N. That's N without the I. Why? Well, because it is me, myself, and I of my previous testimony. You see, I hid myself. I is hidden. And now you have N that's left alone. I repeat verse 2 of John chapter 1 as I quote, "The same was in the beginning with God." End quote. Again, I repeat, what is the mystery? That's the question. And again, I repeat the answer, which is in, as well as the same. This means the same in that's in the beginning will be in the end. And that now brings us to another question that is found in the beginning, which is the same in the end. And that question is also found in the King James Version Holy Bible, the 1611 edition, in the book called Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, and chapter 5, and verse 31. And that reads, as I quote, "The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests be ruled by their means, and my people love to have it so." But the question is, and what will ye do in the end thereof? End quote. That's the question. The question is, in the end thereof. What end? Again, that end is a homophone with the D. So the question remains the same. What is the mystery? The same in that was in the beginning is now in the end. It's now in the end. Take a look at Matthew chapter 30 and verse 40. Remember, the 14th English letter is known as N. However, in Hebrew, the 14th Hebrew character is known as Nun. That means the 13th Hebrew character is known as Mem, as well as the 13th English letter is known as M, as in Matthew, as in Micah. So now again, take a look at Matthew chapter 13, as in Mem, the 13th Hebrew character, and the number value of Mem is 40, 40. So take a look at Matthew chapter 13 and verse 40 that reads, as I quote, "As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world." End quote. Now, at the same time, this brings up another subject that was asked by the disciples of the Christ over 2,027 years ago, as they asked him the question. That question is now found in a book called Matthew, the very same book, Matthew, in chapter 24 and verse 3. So now take a look at that. In the end. And that reads, as I quote, Matthew chapter 24, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives," and that is not olives, that is the other mystery. See, that is the zero, that is O. The O of the English's letters, which is the 15th letter that they use. However, O is not a letter. O is a symbol, as in zero, as in void, as in infinity. That O in front of the L, from the left to the right, is the lives that are found inside of infinity, inside of the circle, inside of the celestial lodge. As he sat upon the mount of the celestial lodge with the lives of those that are now inside of the circle, which are who? The disciples that came. They came unto me. They came into Mem Yod, from our previous testimony. They came unto him privately, saying, "Tell us, just tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" The end of the world. End quote. Question. And now today, over 2,027 years later, here is the answer to the question, found at the end of the world, which is the sign. What is the sign? The sign is the end. Not the E-N-D, but the end, the 14th English letter that was created from the 14th Hebrew symbol or character, which is the sign. Don't you see the end? Don't you see the end after the sign? Look at it. It's spelled from left to right, S-I-G-N. Look at the end at the end. Look at the end of sign. And all you see is sign. When you should not be looking at a sign, you should be rejoicing. What you should see, those who are looking for an end, you should be looking to sing. The same 4 English letters from left to right as we put in the middle and put God, the G, at the end. And now, all of a sudden, you have from left to right, S-I-N-G, which spells in English, sing. Sing. Sing what? Or shall I ask, sing to who? Sing to the G that's now at the end. G, the English letter known as G, is the first letter that spells God, which is the same as the beginning with God. The same G was in the beginning with God, and now here we are at the end. Here we is at the end with God, and something is happening today at the end. Therefore, those who are in the circle, all of the lives of the same verse, should now prepare to sing unto God, just as it says in the book called the Psalms, in chapter 68, in verse 4, and that reads, as I quote, "Sing unto God, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Yod, and rejoice before him," end quote. And notice how they have a J-A-H, a J, opposed to a Y. And that's the question, why? Because they replaced the Y with a G. In other words, opposed to having Y-O-D, they replaced and substituted with G-O-D. You see, G-O-D is God. However, Y-O-D is his name that you should sing unto as Yod. I repeat, in the book called Psalms, chapter 68 of the King James Version Bible, the 1611 edition, the very first word is sing unto God. That's S-I-N-G, the G at the end. See, in the end. And it repeats, sing praises to his name. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Yod, and rejoice before him, end quote. What do you mean, rejoice before him? What is the mystery? Remember, it does not read rejoice in front of him. It reads rejoice before him. That means before he comes, before he arrives, you should be singing. You should sing praises to his name. Yehuda, the children of Israel, all of you, you should sing praises to his name. But how can you when you don't know his name? But take an emphasis in particular on the subject, which is what? Exactly, rideth upon the heavens. The God of the Hebrews rideth upon the heavens, but he is riding in something, and you should rejoice before he arrives and what he is riding in, what he rideth upon. See, he rideth upon the heavens, not rideth in the heavens. He rideth upon the heavens. That means he rules the heavens. He's upon the heavens. And there are others that are with him that are also on their way. And that is proven down in verse 17 of the same book, Psalms, in chapter 68, the same chapter, in verse 17. And that reads, and I continue to quote, "The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place, end quote. And notice that I pronounced the word Sinai opposed to Sinai, Sinai. It is not Sinai. It is Sinai. And why is it sin? Well, the first two letters is S-I. But look at what's in the middle. What's in the middle? The N. The N, followed by the A, which is the very first letter, or the Aleph of Hebrew, the Alpha of Greek, and an I. Look how many times the letter I is positioned. Twice, as in I, even I. And you place the three letters together, the first three as S-I-N, now you have sin. You have the Hebrew symbol known as sin, and sin is now in the West. Remember, it was promised in the book called John, in chapter 14, that I will reprove the world of sin. Take a look at John chapter 14. Take a look at verse 6 of John chapter 14. And I repeat, I quote, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. And take a look at verse 7. If ye had known me, ye should have known my Father also. And from henceforth ye know him, and have seen him. In verse 8, Philip saith unto him, Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. Well, I said unto him, have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me has seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, show us the Father? Verse 10, believest thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? In me. The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself. Why? Because I hid myself. According to my previous video testimony, I hid myself. It doesn't exist. But the Father that dwelleth in me, myself, and I, in me, in mem yod, me, he doeth the works. So verse 11, believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me, or else believe me for the very work's sake. End quote. End of verse 11, John chapter 14. And I know some of you right now watching this video, you're probably saying, wait a minute, you said you was to prove the world of sin. It was promised you will reprove the world of sin. Yes, I just did. Yeah, but you're also saying, and maybe saying, or questioning, but isn't that in John chapter 16 and verse 8? No, that's what you read. That's what you read, and that's what you read. But you have forgotten just that quickly. I said we're dealing with homophones, words that sound alike but are spelled differently with different meanings. I said sin. I will reprove the world of sin, and I am keeping my promise. See, I'm reproving the world of sin today. And I'm reproving that the Father is in me and I am in the Father. As you've seen the Father, you've seen me. As you've seen me, you see the Father. And many of you today are calling me Ba. That means Father. And some are saying Ab as a Father. And the Father in me, and I am in the Father, and all of a sudden you have Abba together as one. I, even I. Yeah, but wait a minute. You're saying don't go off the track. Don't go off the subject. You said you will reprove the world of sin. Yes, and that is true. And that is what I have just done to fulfill my promise. So you're looking for English spelled from left to right. S-I-N. Sin. Take a look. Go back and look at, go ahead now, look at John chapter 16. And take a look at verse 8. This is not a conflict. See, you are still sleeping in the dust of the earth. You are sleeping in the dust of the earth, and only my voice, as I am now speaking to the dead, shall hear my voice, and you that hear shall live, just as promised in the same book, John chapter 5 and verse 25. If you hear my voice and learn from me, you will live. Take a look now at John chapter 16 and verse 8, as I quote verbatim. And when he is come, see, he is come, not when he come. When he is come, he will reprove the world of sin and of righteousness and of judgment. Look at verse 9. Of sin. Why? Why? Because they believe not on me. Me, myself, and I. They believe not on me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father, and ye see me no more. And I just proved that. You see me no more. I did away with me. I did away with me, myself, and I. Check out my previous video, my most recent before this one. You see me no more. Now you see Anoki. You see Anoki, or you see Ani. You see Panim, my face, Panim. Verse 11, of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged, end quote, just as his world is coming to its end. Its end. Back in those days, over 2026 years ago, I said in verse 12, I have yet many things to say unto you, but ye cannot bear them then. The question now is, can you bear them now? If you do, then verse 13 will be fulfilled. And I'm now fulfilling verse 13. How be it when he, the Spirit of truth, again, is come. This is the very same is come as in verse 8. He is come. I am come. He will guide you into all truth, for he shall not speak of himself, but whatsoever he shall hear, that shall he speak, and he will shew you things to come, end quote. And here I am come, and now let me show you the things to come that you was thinking of verse 8 as S-I-N, sin, when if you go into your search box or you go into your computer software and look up the Hebrew character known as sin, you have sin and shin. You have S-I-N and you have S-H-I-N. And when you look them up, you would then get the pronunciation of S-I-N as well as S-H-I-N. And when you do your research and study, and you discover the pronunciation of S-I-N, it is going to take you to S-E-E-N. that's found in John chapter 14. We're right back now at 14, John. And that would be, we can remember, begin at verse 7. As I repeat, verse 7, John chapter 14. If ye had known me, ye should have known my Father also. And from henceforth ye know him and have seen him. I have now reproved the world of seen. I am fulfilling my promise. That means this world must be coming to its end, as in S-E-E-N. See, the end is there. The end is there as S-I-N, and the end is there and S-E-E-N. The same English's letters, except for the vowel. You have the vowel I, and then you have the vowel E of the English's idiom. You have the E that repeats itself, positioned twice, as an S-E-E-N. Seen, that's pronunciation of sin, the Hebrew character that produces the S sound, the S of Hebrew idiom, as an S-I-N. Now, when you remove the S from the S-I-N, we're right back in the beginning as well as in the end. Oh, did you know that? Going back to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3, my disciples asked me for a sign, as in S-I-G-N. And there's the sign. I am reproving the world of sin, and only the Christ can do that. Now take a look at Matthew chapter 13 and verse 40 as we repeat. Matthew chapter 13, verse 40. I repeat, as therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The subject of this testimony is in, without the I, in. Take a look now at Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 26. As I quote, for then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now, once in the end of the world, hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. End quote. And there's your mystery. I put away sin. I just reproved the world of sin by putting it away, and I've given you seen, S-E-E-N, that you have now seen the Father that's in me, and I in the Father. I repeat Hebrews chapter 9, as in September. See, 9, according to the Gregorian calendar, is September, the 9th month. And verse 26 is the date on their calendar at sundown that begins the Feast of Tabernacles, according to Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 34. That means, according to Revelation chapter 21 and verse 3, the tabernacle of God is with men. And September 26, 2001 was another historical day of the Social Lodge that was subject to John the Baptist, whom many of you today are still calling, and I repeat in the English's appellation, transliteration, quote, Yahweh, Ben Yahweh, end quote. Or do you not know that on September 9, the 26th of September in 2001, that Yahweh, Ben Yahweh, was released from prison and returned to me What do you mean returned to me? He returned to M-I, not M-E. He returned to M-I in the beginning, where he came to in the beginning. He came to M-I in the beginning, and he came to M-I in the end. He came to M-I in the beginning, and he returned to M-I in the end. And in the middle, we had Alpha. We had me, Alpha. I'm also here at the end as Omega. I'm here to begin as Aleph in Hebrew. I'm also here at the end as Tav, the last Hebrew character. I'm here as Alpha in the beginning of the Greek. I'm also here at the end with the O, Omega. At the end, the O, the circle. Remember, the O lives. Take another look at Hebrews chapter 9, verse 26. There's a reason why Yahweh ben Yahweh chose to come out and return to Miami on September 26, 2001. Or did you not see it? I said M-I, me in the beginning, and me at the end, M-I. M-I is pronounced me, both in the beginning and at the end. At the beginning, in the beginning of the world, and at the end of the world. In the beginning of the world. Again, that reads Hebrews chapter 9, verse 26. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. That's in the beginning. But now, at the end, now, once in the end of the world, hath he appeared to do what? To put away sin, S-I-N, by the sacrifice of himself. So you see, our sacrifice, when you thought I wanted to go to John chapter 16 and verse 8 to reprove the world of sin, I sacrificed what you thought was a mistake. And I've now reproved you. I took you back to the homophone of seeing, S-E-E-N, as in the Father. You've seen the Father, you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So I put away sin by the sacrifice of myself, of himself. Only the Christ can do that. I am not here to convince anyone of who I am. You be the judge for yourself of who you think I am, as many others know who I am, because only the Christ can explain to you the mystery of what the kingdom of heaven is like. And that's what the subject is, the testimony of this testimony of this testimony. The testimony of this testimony of the testimony is the kingdom of heaven. Do you know what it's like? That was asked a question. And that's found in John, the question. Which John? Which John? John the Baptist. So let's go now back for a moment to Matthew, as we found in the end of this world, in verse 40. We're going to go now to verse 33. We're going to go back up to verse 33 of Matthew chapter 13. And in fact, let's start at verse 31 of Matthew chapter 13. That's 13 forward and 13 backward. That's from left to right. See, the first shall be last and last first. That's 1331 or 1331. From right to left is 1331, and from left to right is 1331. The first shall be last, the last first. In the beginning, in the end. I quote, verse 31. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field. Verse 32, which indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. And finally, the subject of verse 33. Another parable spake he unto them, as I am speaking today. What is a parable? The parable is, the kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened. End quote. That's the end of Matthew chapter 13, verse 33. See 33? That means only the Christ can explain and reveal this parable of the leaven that's hidden in 3 measures of meal. And now I'm going to reveal it. You be the judge of who you think I am, as others have already judged of who they know who I am. So what is the parable? Well, the parable is coming. See, come, pair. That's C-O-M in English, with the C, pronounced as a K. That's C-O-M. Without the E is at the end of parable. So we're going to take the E that's twice in seen, as an S-E-E-N. We're going to take one of those E's of S-E-E-N, and place it at the end of the R of parable. We're going to separate the R and the A of parable. That's the first thing you must do. You must take the parable, spelled from left to right, P-A-R-A-B-L-E. Now there you have the E at the end of parable. So that E is fine. It's already situated. Now we're going to go to seen, as I reprove the world of seen. What have you seen? We're going to take one of the E's of seen and place it, as we separated the R and the A, we're going to place that E at the end of the R. And then you have pair, P-A-R-E. And now we're going to take the C-O-M. Since we have the E, we're going to take the C-O-M, as in C-O-M-E, come. Then we're going to substitute, put that on the side, because remember we borrowed from S-E-E-N. Now we're going to take the C-O-M, and we're going to put the P of the P-A-R-E right next to the M. And what you should have is compare. You should have from left to right, C-O-M-P-A-R-E, space, A-B-L-E, comparable. What's comparable? Well, the kingdom of heaven, which is likened to leaven. So what do you mean? Well, it's hidden in what they call today the 3-eye atlas. That's what the kingdom of heaven is like. It's like unto leaven. Let's go take a look at that for a moment in Revelation chapter 21. Take a look at Revelation chapter 21 and verse 2, as I quote verbatim of the King James Version Bible. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. End quote. Now take a look at this verse. And here you see in this verse the word coming in English, spelled from left to right, C-O-M-I-N-G. You also have in this verse the word prepared in past tense, spelled from left to right, P-R-E-P-A-R-E-D. Again, P-R-E-P-A-R-E-D, prepared. Now, in this verse is hidden the leaven, as well as the meal. In other words, remember, we took the C-O-M that you see in this verse of coming without the I-N-G, and we place at the end of the E of prepare. See, at the end of the E, when you take C-O-M of the I-N-G, remove the I-N-G of coming, and then remove the P-R-E of prepared. Why? Why are you taking away? Why would we take away the P-R-E, which is the suffix, with the suffix P-A-R-E-D? That's the suffix. The P-R-E is the prefix. The P-A-R-E-D is the suffix of prepared. That's two different words. The pre, of course, means it was done previously. It was already done, but it was done in Hebraic. You're looking at now the transliteration from the original Hebrew. I repeat, once again, you're looking at the preparation. You look at pre. In other words, this was previously hand-drafted in Hebraic. Pre, the P-R-E, thousands of years ago, to bring about this revelation for today. Remember, this is in the book called Revelation. So when you take the C-O-M, as I instructed, remove the suffix I-N-G, and also remove the prefix, the P-R-E, of prepared. And when you place the suffix P-A-R-E next to the prefix, the C-O-M, now you have compare. But since we already compare, we did this already, so we can bring in the D at the end. See, at the end, the D. So now you should have, from left to right, C-O-M-P-A-R-E-D, compared, coming down from God out of heaven, compared. Compared to what? As a bride. Bride? Well, now you're looking at B-R-I-D-E. So what's with the B-R-I-D-E? Well, the B is for Beth and Bath. Beth Nusophi, Bath Nusophi. That's the sons and daughters of God. Beth Nusophi, Bath Nusophi. The sons and the daughters of God. And without the B, which you thought was bride, you have ride, R-I-D-E. And when you place this together, you have compared as a ride, adorned for her husband. Coming down. Don't forget, it's coming down from God out of heaven. And I repeat, that is what they are describing today and identifying themselves today as, I'll quote, the three-eye atlas. The three-eye atlas. In other words, there's three, the three measures of meal, the I, which is one, I, remember, me, myself, and I, in the end, and at last. The end at last. In the end at last. The three-eye at last. Now go back to Matthew chapter 13 and let me review verse 33 that has never been done since I sealed it in the history of this world, that's coming in the end. And now that I have revealed the parable, the compare able, as I educate you with the ED. See, ED is short for educate. Oh, did you know that? You should. You went to their public schools. You should know that ED is abbreviation for education. Did you know that ED is also in the Bible? There's a monument that I preserved for in the end. No, you did not know that? Okay, well, let me show you where that is. Or did you not know that I'm also known in the Bible as Joshua? That's Yahshua. Not Joshua, that's a J. It's Yahshua. If not, then let me introduce myself to you today as Yahshua of the Bible that succeeded Moshe, just as I'm doing today. After Moshe came Joshua, also known as Yahweh ben Yahweh. Remember, he first came to Miami of Florida in 1979 as Moses Israel, Ak Moshe. So take a look at Yahshua in chapter 22. King James Version Bible, we're still going to use that version, the 1611 edition. Yahshua chapter 22 and verse 34. And that reads, as I quote, "And the children of Reuben and the children of Gad," that's God, G-A-D, God, "called the altar Ed, E-D, for it shall be a witness between us that the Lord is God." End quote. Oh, did you not know that? Did you not know that the Lord is God? Well, he is. And this Lord is not the name of the God of the Hebrews. See, when you take a look at this Lord, it takes you to a character, three characters, Hebrew characters. One of the three is positioned twice. Go ahead. Go in your Strong's Concordance on your computer software, the James Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible, the King James Version, and type in Lord, all caps, just like you see it here in Joshua chapter 22 and verse 34. In fact, in every place in the Bible, King James Version, where you see it in all caps like this, it's going to take you to reference H3068. And that 3068 is going to take you to four meanings that are connected to three Hebrew characters. One of the three positioned twice, which is Hey. That means you're going to find in this reference from right to left, Yod, Hey, Wav, Hey. And those three Hebrew characters, one position twice, means from left to right. It means the door, the truth, the way, and the life with Yod. In other words, when we read this last sentence that's found in Joshua chapter 22 and verse 34, here is what is being revealed. It is revealing, see it, for it is revealing, shall be a witness between us, Anaknu, us, that the door, the truth, the way, and the life is God. And notice how God, G-O-D, with a capital G, lowercase o-d, takes you right to reference H430, which is Elohim. It means God, Elohim. Now, there's a surprise for many of you. You did not know that Yahshua, remember, his name was Yahshua, not Jesus. They changed it to Jesus in the New Testament. It's the same Yahshua. Yahshua, also known in the New Testament as Jesus, is God. That's what it's telling you. I repeat, Yahshua is the door, the truth, the way, and the life, who is also God. Now, with that revelation, let's go back now to Matthew chapter 13, so I can complete and conclude this revelation of the mystery of the parable of the leaven and why a woman, I am that woman that took and hid 3 measures of meal till the whole was leavened. Now, I am that woman. What you see, you only see WOMAN. And I just revealed to you that I am Wob from left to right. Hey, Wob. Hey, Yod. Wob represents protection. That is the 6th Hebrew symbol of the Hebrew charts and characters. Wob, the mark of protection. Wob, the man of protection. See the man right there next to the O? That's the circle. The O is the circle. We're right back to the O of the celestial arch, the circle, infinity. So here you have Wob standing right in front of the circle, the port of the celestial arch, and he is a man. Wob represents 6 feet in height, which is the same as 72 inches, or 4 cubits, which is hidden in Revelation, the same Revelation chapter 21 and verse 17, the measure of the angel, standing at the port door of the O, the circle, who, a man, see which a man standing at 6 feet tall, the angel, at the port door of the celestial lodge of the circle, took, didn't take, took, already wasn't given to him, took it and hid in 3 measures of meal till the whole was leavened. So what measures of meal? The same measures is found in, again, Revelation chapter 21 and verse 17, the measure of this angel. I'm measuring it. This measure is also found in Revelation chapter 6. See, 6? Chapter 6 and verse 6, which is a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. I'm measuring it. And that confused the theologians in the history of this world. That confused all theologians of the world that tried to figure this out, to loose the seals of Revelation, and they cannot do it. I am the Lion of the tribe called Yehuda, and I'm the only one that was worthy to loose the seals. How's that? Because I sealed them. No one else would know the mystery of the 3 measures of meal except the woman that hid them. So how is that? Well, take a look at me, and I'm sure. See, me, M-E-A, shores. I am sure of this meal. Me, I am sure of this meal. This meal is not the meal that you thought it was, that's made from corn, by the way. Or did you not know that? Here is a special revelation and message to all the false prophets of the world that try to figure this out. You cannot, and you could not do it. And after this testimony, a lot of thieves are going to follow behind it. And I invite you to do so, because I'm going to take you to the leaven as you do it. In other words, behold, to wit, these 3 measures of meal are known to the world today as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's 3 measures of meal, each meal in a measure. That means something else has to be measured as a result of these meals. That means something is measured in the breakfast, something is measured at the lunch, and something is measured at the dinner. And what's measured? What you have here is what you think is leaven. And you do not have leaven. Why? Because we are at this part of the testimony to reveal the end. Remember, in the end? So when we remove the end from what you thought was leaven. In other words, spell from left to right. L-E-A-V-E-N. Now that we're in the end, in the beginning, in the end, we're now going to take the end as just a homophone and leave it for the end by itself. And when you remove the N from what you thought was leaven, now you're left with leave. You're left with L-E-A-V-E. Leave. I repeat, when you remove the N from what you thought was leaven, again spell from left to right, L-E-A-V-E-N. When you remove the N, you're left with leave. The N is where we are now, at the end, in the end. But remember, as I bring to your attention, this leaven is found here as present tense, and then it appears in the very same verse again at the end as past tense. That is, I repeat, till the whole was leavened. Now you have here the N, E, and D at the end of leave. Now, when you remove the N-E-D from the last word of this verse, which is leavened, you thought was leavened, you have leave again. That means you have leave twice. But one of the leaves has an N-E-D. But remember, you must remove the N, because now we're in the end, as I promised my disciples, a sign of my coming and of the end of the world, the end of the world. So, as we remove the N from the L-E-A-V-E-N-E-D of the last leaven, the second leaven, we're now left with the E-D. We're left with the E-D, the ed. Remember, back to Joshua chapter 22. So this is the monument. This is the monument that we must face today as we get ready to leave on what they think is the three-eye atlas, which is actually the holy city. We're going to get to that in a moment. That's the holy city that's coming down from God out of heaven, the kingdom. So now we're left with L-E-A-V-E twice. And as we take the D, we're going to use this D of ed. We're going to use the D, and we're going to place the D at the end of the E of both words, of both leave. That's L-E-A-V-E-D twice. Leaved. I remember, and going back to the Tetragrammaton, remember the door, the truth, the way, and the life from left to right that created the Yod, He, Wav, He from right to left that everyone thought that was the name of God. It is not the name of the God of Hebrews. That was preserved for the kingdom of heaven that's coming that I will reveal today, as I'm now doing. I'm loosing the seal. So when you have the L-E-A-V-E-D twice, as the door is now opening and the angel that's standing at Wav is 6 feet tall, show you the way. After you find the truth to come through the door, you find the truth standing there to show you the way to go through the door and to get to God, the life, the Father. So you have to go through these two leaved gates. They now become leaved gates. And that was hidden in the book called Isaiah in chapter 45 and verse 1. Now go take a look at that. Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 1. And then you will find the Lord again. And I'm saying it now. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 1, same Bible. And that reads, as I quote, "Thus saith the Lord, thus saith the door, the truth, the way, and the life, to his anointed. To see us, to saw us. See us? To see why are us? Homophone, you want to see why are us is here today? Whose right hand I have holden to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates. The two-leaved gates that were found as I hid in 3 measures of meal. These are the very same gates. These are the very same leaved gates that's hidden in 3 measures of meal. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 33. Twice. Leaved. Not leaven. Leaved. The leave gates. And the gates shall not be shut. They shall not be shut. End quote of Isaiah chapter 45 verse 1. As verse 2 says, in Isaiah chapter 45, I will go before thee. See, one will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. Verse 3, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness that's coming through space right now, the 3-eye atlas, and hidden riches of secret places. See, the secret places that I hid in 3 measures of meal, the mystery, that thou mayest know that I, one, the Lord, Yod, Hey, Wav, Hey, Hey, Wav, Hey, Yod, the door, the truth, the way, and the life, which call thee by thy name, am the God of Israel. End quote. That's Isaiah chapter 45 and verses 1, 2, and 3. I hid in 3 measures of meal. Now go back to Matthew chapter 13 and verse 33. Now that we've taken care of the leaven, there's no leaven, it's leave, the 2 leaved gates to get into the kingdom of heaven. And these gates will not be shut. These gates will not be shut at breakfast. They will not be shut during lunch. And they will not be shut during dinner. 3 measures of meal. Till the whole must leave. The whole was leave. So how do we prove that? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Well, go to your YouTube channel and follow the history of what they're calling the 3-eye atlas that they have been following and monitoring since July 1st of this year, 2025 of their calendar, 2025, since July 1st. Look at the history of it. So let's go first to the first meal, which is breakfast. Breakfast, isn't it? So go ahead and go to your concordance and place breakfast in your search box. Go ahead, breakfast, spelled from left to right. B-R-E-A-K-F-A-S-T, the first meal, breakfast. Isn't it? I repeat, breakfast. So search that in your concordance. And what do you find? No, we're looking for the King James Version. Remember, we're going to stick with that version of 1611. These other versions were added during the 20th century. The 1611 edition is what we want. Do you see breakfast there? No. No. So that means what? Remember, this is a replica, a metaphor, and a mystery of a parable of the 3-eye atlas that the Christ saved for today to show what the kingdom of heaven is like. That means you must go back to the search box and separate the K from the F of what you thought is breakfast, the first meal that I hid as a woman. The breakfast that I hid as Wob in the circle of social lodge as a man. And as you do, then that should take you to Isaiah, right back to Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 6. And that says, I quote, "Is not this the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke," end quote. That's what I'm here to do. To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens of my people, and to let the oppressed go free of Judah. And also at the same time to break the yokes from off their necks that's found in Deuteronomy chapter 28. And around verse 48, the yokes that are on their necks, break them. How? By bringing the holy city that's coming down now with Ma'ab from heaven, from where we come from, in the end of this world. There's your breakfast. That's the first meal that I've given you. I just loosed it and revealed it to this world. Now let's go to the second meal of the day, which is what? Take a guess. Right, lunch. That's what that means. If you have a balanced diet daily of your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you should have lunch. And that's spelled in Greek, well, in English. Let's go to the English. L-U-N, from left to right, L-U-N-C-H, lunch. Right? Right. In English, L-U-N-C-H, and search it in your concordance, and where does it take you? No. I repeat, we want the King James Version Bible. So that means what? Now we must go to the A. We must go to the A. The letter A. And spell it again from left to right. But this time add A after the L, as in L-A-U-N-C-H. Because remember, the 3-eye atlas that they call it is launching itself. It's launch. It's a launch. You cannot have lunch without the A, without the appetizer. You must have an appetizer with your lunch that begins with A, an appetizer with lunch. So go ahead, type in L-A-U-N-C-H in your search box of the Strong's Concordance. And let's see where that takes us. That should take you to Luke chapter 5 and verse 4, as in 1954, which is the year when the woman came out of a womb on the 15th day of the 7th month. The same woman that hid the meal, 3 measures of meal. And that reads, Luke chapter 5, verse 4, that reads, "Now, when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon, Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a drought," end quote. So what is this launch out? Now when you go back to YouTube, see, you must go, don't forget, go back to YouTube for your breakfast, your breakfast that said it's split up. They have a video that shows at one time they announced that the 3-eye atlas had broken up or split up. That's break fast. That's break. It break fast. Remember, it's traveling very fast. Very fast. So that break fast, it broken up fast. It break fast. It split up. You'll find it. Go to YouTube and look for it. You'll find that they announced one day that they discovered the 3-eye atlas as breaking up or separated, split up fast. That's breakfast. Then you go to another video that they made an announcement and said it launched something. It launched, which means in Greek, under the Greek meaning, under Strong's G1877, G1877, Abednego. It reveals to lead up upon, a ship upon the deep, to put out, to lead back. See, to lead back, to lead something back that's coming back, to return. In other words, Ma'ab is returning, and we're going to lead others back with us to launch out. Of the meaning, to launch out, thrust out. This is the concordance, the reference. Again, G1877. And it has etymology that says to come from G1909, that means on, in, upon, as well as G321 that says loose and sail and launch, depart. That means some are going to be departing in the 3-eye atlas. That's the launch, the lunch. You'll find it. And when you go to your internet and look for launch, the 3-eye atlas launch, in one column, it being that they're looking for something to happen on December 19th of this month, their calendar. They are looking for whatever they're looking for. Though I promise in Matthew chapter 24 that of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only knows when he's going to land the holy city on this planet. But if you look in your internet, you will find under 3-eye atlas, you will find a 14th anomaly of 3-eye atlas, alignment of its rotation axis with and it says the base that launched the anti-tail jet in July 2025 is now on the night side of 3-eye atlas. That's the launch. There's one link, and you can go to your Google search for that. Another one is found from November 19th that says launched in 1995. The SOHO spacecraft has become the most prolific comet hunter of all time. That's launch. That's hidden, related to 3-eye atlas. Launch, that you thought was lunch. Well, it is lunch. In some countries, they pronounce launch, lunch. I speak the truth as the spirit of truth. So, go to lunch. Let's go to launch. When you go to that link of the first link I've given you, that is titled, as I quote, the first link that says, a 14th anomaly of 3-eye atlas, alignment of its rotation axis with the sunward direction at large distances, end quote. And as we move down into that link that was posted by Avi Loeb Stories, who is a scientist, he goes on to read in this paragraph, I quote, the base that launched the anti-tail jet in July 2025 is now on the night side of 3-eye atlas, period. The comet interpretation of 3-eye atlas requires a new pocket of ice near the opposite pole of the rotation axis that gives rise to a prominent new anti-tail jet after perihelion or perihelion, period. In addition, it requires installation of the previously active jet before perihelion, so as for it to become dormant after perihelion, constituting yet another anomalous feature, end quote. And that takes care of the lunch of the three meals. So far we had the breakfast or the breakfast, the lunch or the launch, and now it's time for dinner. And just to reiterate, going back to lunch for a moment, because remember, you must eat all your lunch, eat all of it. That's found in Luke chapter 5, verse 4, to launch out. I repeat, Luke chapter 5, verse 4. Now, when he had left speaking, I'm about to leave speaking, he said unto Simon, as all the simple-minded people, all of those of Simon on, all those of Sim on, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a drought. These nets are your internets. The internets today, that's Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, your internets. Let down your nets and make this announcement to your friends that the Christ is here. The Son of the true and living God of the Hebrews is here. And I am now going to cause a drought, for a drought to come upon this world of all your philosophies that you have thought in theology are all evil, wicked, and false. And I'm going to destroy them now with this revelation. So launch out. Your lunch is now out. Your lunch is out. LAUNCH is out. That means it's time to go back. Remember, G1877. It's time to leave back and return. To return. And finally, lastly, let us go into our third measure of meal. Our third and fine measure of meal, the meal of the day, which of course is dinner. We had breakfast, breakfast. We also had lunch, as in launch. And now it's time for dinner. And that's dinner in English, spelled from left to right. DINNER, dinner. And as you look at this dinner spelled in English, again, from left to right, DINNER, here you see the N is placed twice in this word. That's in. And here we are right back in the beginning, in the end of this testimony with dinner. That's in the beginning, and now in the end of the world. Just as my disciples asked me over 2026 years ago, the end of the world. So let's take a look at our final measure. That's me assure of this meal, of these three meals, three measures of meal. And that takes us to your Strong's Concordance in your search box. As many of you know that the word dinner is not in the Bible, at least the King James Version Bible. You know you're not going to find dinner in the Bible. If you found dinner in the Bible, then you would spend most of your day eating dinner and not reading the Bible. Isn't that true? Well, if your answer to that question is yes, then how about going to the Bible and find some dinner to eat? Remember, give us this day our daily bread as you eat. So let me give you something to eat. Go to your search box to your Strong's Concordance online, computer software, and just type in from left to right, DINNER. Search that and discover that while you were eating breakfast and lunch, dinner was waiting on you 4 times in the Bible. 4 times. In 4 chapters, in 4 books, and in 4 verses. The first being the book called Proverbs, the only time of the Old Testament that you will find dinner. And the second is the subject in Matthew that involves the marriage of the Lamb, the supper, dinner. So let's read that. Let's read that first. Matthew chapter 22 and verse 4. As I read, and I quote verbatim, again, he sent forth other servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, and that's B-I-D-D-E-N, bidden. And if you remove one of those D's, then you're left with Biden. That means that during the days in the end of this world, when I return to reveal this parable of the leaven and the 3 measures of meal, there would be someone in Washington, District of Columbia, that would be a pharaoh, or would have been a pharaoh previously, that would bear the last name of Biden. Again, that's B-I-D-E-N, Biden. And that would bring us to one of the sons of Jacob, as promised in Genesis chapter 49 and verse 1. And let's take a look at that for a moment before we go further in Matthew chapter 22. Let's go to Genesis for a moment for a quick cross-reference in Genesis chapter 49 so we can find Biden, at least the first name, that is known as Joseph. Let us begin by reading verse 1 of Genesis chapter 49. Verse 1, so that we can compare that in a parable comparable to Matthew chapter 13 in the last days, and Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3 in the end of the world. And it reads, verse 1, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. End quote. Now, these are the 12 sons of Jacob, and that begins at verse 3. That mentions Reuben, the firstborn. Now, let's go down and look for the subject that's coming from Matthew chapter 22, and that would be Joseph. In fact, look at verse 22. That corresponds with Matthew 22. And that reads, I quote, Joseph, Yosef, is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. Verse 23, the archers have surely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. And they did, they shot at him, just as they shot at his predecessor. They shot at him. But in verse 24, his bow, which are 2 homophones, bow and bow. Bow in verse 22 and bow in verse 24, named after his son, Bo. Did he not have a son named Bo? Well, here it is, the fulfillment of that revelation of bow and strength. And he was in the services. The son named Bo of Joe of Biden was in the armed services of the United States government. And the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, in parentheses, the stone of Israel. Verse 25, even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above. And here it comes, the holy city, the 3-eye atlas, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. And finally, verse 26, the blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, and to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. End quote, in the verse 26. I repeat verse 26. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. End quote. And there you have it. In the last days, we have Joseph Biden in prophecy. Now, with that said, let's go back now to Matthew chapter 22 and complete our dinner of the third meal. And let us start again in the beginning. And that reads, again, he sent forth other servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. All these things are ready now in the marriage supper of the Lamb. And that's the end of verse 4 of Matthew chapter 22, end quote. So now what do we have? We have dinner. We have dinner that's hidden in the Bible and probably seen by many of you for the first time as you've been reading the Bible, the King James Version, all of your life. So what is this dinner? It's hidden in Greek under the Greek's meaning in Matthew chapter 22 and verse 4. It's hidden under the Greek's meaning of ariston, and that's found in the Strong's Concordance under G712, G712, ariston, and it means the first food taken early in the morning before work, like breakfast. You see, the first shall be last and the last first. And here the Greeks have presented when you eat last in a meal, the 3 meals a day, what you eat last as dinner, as the third meal of the day, the Greeks put down is the first food taken early in the morning before work, breakfast, but they have it under dinner. And look at the later usage. See, the first usage was dinner. The first usage was breakfast. The first food taken early in the morning before work, breakfast. And now they have it last today as dinner. The later usage as dinner. That's just under the Strong's Concordance, the same meaning, G712. And that's what my soul meant. That is what my celestial soul meant by many that are first shall be last, and the last first. In Matthew chapter 19 and verse 30. Go ahead. Take a look at it. Matthew chapter 19 and verse 30. And that reads, as I quote, as promised, but many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. This quote, end quote. Now take another look at the meaning of their dinner in Greek. Ariston. And it means, again, the first food taken early in the morning before work. That's first. And that's called breakfast, as our 3 meals of the day. But now it's last. That says the later usage is now dinner. Imagine that. They even give you an etymology, that's where it comes from. And that would be under G730, as in 7:30 in the morning would be what? Breakfast. But 7:30 in the evening would be what? Dinner. Make sense? And yet the meaning, the etymology, is neither. Because the etymology under G730 with the Greek word arein means man or male. It means man-child, male. So how do we get dinner out of that? Out of the male. Because this is the bridegroom of the dinner, preparing the meal, the dinner, the marriage, the bridegroom, the etymology. It even takes you even up. It even goes to a deeper etymology under G142 that takes you up, takes you away with, under G142, all coming from dinner. And it means to rise up, to elevate, to lift up, to rise from the ground and taken up in a ship, a spaceship, in the 3-eye atlas, upwards, is coming to move from its place, to carry off as we travel, to carry and travel as a traveler, who, men and women, male and female. And that's hidden under the, what you think is ox, the OX. What? Yes. It's hidden under the OX. You think it's ox. In other words, go back to Matthew chapter 22 for a moment, back to verse 4. And look at what happens after my dinner. The part that reads, behold, I have prepared my dinner. See, prepared again here in this verse that we found to be with compared, the prefix of paired, pre, to go with the prefix of come, and compared. You compare my dinner, compared my dinner. And you see the colon after dinner? Because I'm about to introduce to you my oxen. See how you have here, they have printed oxen spelled from left to right, O-X-E-N. Well, don't you see the ox at the end, the O-X at the end? And my fatlings are killed. Look at the oxen. In the New Testament is known as oxen, O-X-E-N. And under this Greek meaning, under G5022, it takes you to the first meaning, which is a bull or ox. Now you see how they have ox opposed to oxen? Because it comes from the Old Testament. It comes from the first place in the King James Version Bible where you find the third meal of the 3 measures of meal, which is dinner. In fact, go back now. Go back to the original dinner, the original page that produces the 4 dinners, and take a look. The first book and chapter and verse is in the Old Testament in a book called Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 17. So take a look at that. It says, I quote, better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. End quote. So look how they have here in this verse in the Old Testament, ox. Ox without the en and the n. As in the New Testament's Matthew 22:4, all they have is OX. I wonder why they did that. Well, here's why. Because it's not an animal. It's another cryptic meaning, hidden. I hid it in the 3 measures of meal. This is hidden by the woman. What's hidden? The O and the X that produces chromosomes of the male and the female is hidden in dinner. In other words, from right to left, the first is the X. The X represents one of 2 sex chromosomes. The X chromosome is one of the 2 sex chromosomes, as in XX for female and XY for male. that carries essential genes for development, immunity, and brain function. With females, inactivity, as in being inactivating, one X randomly in each cell, as in an X inactivation. See, inactivation. That's INACTIVATION. And see how you have N in front of activation with the X chromosome? To do what? To balance gene dosage with males. And that's referenced in your Google search, in your most encyclopedias and dictionaries. But this is a reference to dictionary.com and an overview that you find in your Google search under X chromosome is there. So it takes care of the X from right to left. So as we continue and go to the left, now you have the O next to the X. So what is the O? The O in XO chromosome notation signifies the absence of a sex chromosome used in the XO or sex determination system found in some insects like grasshoppers. And for example, this X also represents no second sex chromosome, differentiating from the human XY system. So what is the X? This X chromosome is not good. It is not good. The X chromosome leaves you out. It takes you away. So when you look up these two together in the concordance that's coming from Proverbs chapter 15, verse 17, what you think is ox as an animal, I have hidden both travelers. This is part of the me ashore measure. Me, M-E-A-S-U-R-E, which is a homophone. This S-U-R-E at the end of measure, remember, is a homophone for sure. Sure. That's hidden in 3 measures of meal in the dinner. And when you look it up in your concordance, under H7794, and takes you to the etymology of 7788. See, 7788, double 788, takes you to shore. Shore, spelled in Hebrew from right to left. Sheen, Wav, Resh. Shore. Sheen, Wav, Resh. And it takes you to the travel, to journey, and to be a traveler, to go. And see, they didn't know that the meaning was dubious to them. And it also takes you right back to sing, which is the sign of my coming. S-I-N-G, S-I-G-N. Is what you get from shore, from the O-X of the ox of Proverbs. That's Proverbs chapter 15, verse 17, is where we hear the traveler under the O-X, the XO, the chromosomes, the male and the female, the man and the woman that's traveling to travel with the 3-eye atlas that's coming. That is the mystery of the dinner, the third measure of meal, in part. And as we continue, and in conclusion, and as a reminder, in Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 17 of the same Bible, it reads, as I quote, "Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith." End quote. Now remember, this ox, or what appears to be an ox, spelled from left to right, O-X, is not an ox. Remember, that is the genitals of a male, and the ovaries of a female, the OX, the male and female. And as I mentioned a moment ago, as I close, I want you to remember that there's some herbs involved in this. In Proverbs chapter 15, verse 17, this better is a dinner of herbs. Where love is herbs. So where are these herbs? These herbs are defined in most Bibles and concordances as vegetables. Vegetables like green vegetables. You know, you can go to H3419 and it'll take you to vegetables, green gardens, garden greens, you know, like turnips, mustards, spinach, no collards. We, as celestial beings, and I encourage my Hebrew people, my Israelites as well, do not eat collard greens for Christmas. Do not eat collard greens. Collard greens is collard. It's a weed. It is not a herb or vegetables. It's a weed. But why? Why do we as celestial beings do not eat collard greens? Because collard greens are made for colored people. They're colored greens. And only colored people eat colored greens. Create as a weed. You're looking for herb. You're looking for garden greens, vegetables, herbage. Again, under Strong's H3419. Green, even under its etymology, under H3418. Green, a green thing you're looking for. As herb. As I mentioned a moment ago, this herb is connected to the three measures of meal in Matthew chapter 13. Is hidden in verse 32. Take a look. Matthew chapter 13, verse 32, as I quote, which indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becometh a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. And these birds of the air are metaphor and symbolic that represents the spaceships that are coming, the chariots of God that we found in Psalm chapter 68 and verse 17, to lodge in the branches of all the governments of the celestial lodge, the celestial government, the celestial lodge government, de jure, the government de jure, not de facto, but de jure, the herbs. So what else is hidden with three measures of meal? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What else is hidden? Well, that's easy. The answer is the herbs. I hid the herbs with the meal. So you're looking at H from left to right. You're looking at HERBS. Now, separate the S from the B. Now what do you have? You have herb from left to right, HERB. But this H is missing the bottom. That H is missing the bottom, which means it should be a D. It should be a D. So when you look at this word now, you have from left to right, derb or derbs. If you separate the S from the B, and now we go from right to left, you have B-R-E-D. B-R-E-D, from right to left. And if you place that in your Strong's search box, concordance, from left to right as B-R-E-D, and leave the S there, separated from the D. Now it's going to take you to what? It's going to take you to one verse in the Bible, King James Version, that's found in Exodus chapter 16 and verse 20. And that's where the worms are. That's those who do not come and recognize the Son during the Feast of Tabernacles, and after this holy city comes, you're going to turn into a stench. You're going to stink. The worms are going to come and eat your carcass, your body, rotten. That reads, as I quote, Exodus chapter 16, verse 20, notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left of it until the morning, and it bred worms and stank, and Moses was wroth with them. End quote. See the bread, B-R-E-D without the A? You have B-R-E-A-D for bread. You also have B-R-E-D for bread. That's hidden under H7311 of the concordance. Stank. That means what? Room. You don't have room to play around and to wait, or else you're going to die and stank. Room. Spelling Hebrew from right to left. Resh, Wav, Mem, Sophe. Room. And it means what? To rise. Rise up. It is now time for you to rise up, Judah. Rise. Be high. Be lofty. Be exalted. To rise as children. And to cause you to grow. I'm here to cause you to grow up. I've come to lift you up, to lift up, to exalt you, to extol you, that rise upon the heavens as my with him, to be lifted up, to take up and set you up and set you on high. This is the same meaning of room, to be taken off and be abolished, to exalt oneself and magnify oneself. Or you can choose the latter, which means to be rotten and be wormy. That's your herb. That's what you thought was herb. See, it was hidden. It was hidden in 3 measures of meal. And what good is 3 measures of meal without the herb, without the greens, without the spinach or the mustard greens? What good is that? Or the turnip greens? I have just revealed the mystery of what the kingdom of heaven is like in the end. And when you look up the kingdom of heaven, go ahead, search in your box, the kingdom of heaven. It should take you to several books, chapters, and verses. But what of the holy city? You'll find the holy city in the Bible in 9 different chapters. When you type in the holy city, 9. However, there's only one of those books and chapters that bears the holy city, New Jerusalem, that identifies the holy city, and that is in Revelation chapter 21 and verse 2. That means this holy city, when you look up city, holy, remember holy is hallowed. This is hallowed. In this city, under Greek, G172, G4172, tells you and reveals that it's a heavenly Jerusalem. It's an abode of the blessed in heaven, of the visible capital of the heavenly kingdom to come down to earth after the renovation of the world by fire and the inhabitants of a city. That's the city. That is what's going to happen once this city arrives and lands on this planet by my Father. Confirming Strong's Concordance G4172, Polis. Polis. Again, the abode of the blessed in heaven. Are you one of them? And don't make a silly comment or statement that you are one of the 144,000. Do you have my Ab's name written in your forehead? And who chose you as one of the 144,000? It's not 144,000 anyway. Where'd you get that from? I suggest before I leave that you take a good look at that. Go to Revelation chapter 14 and take a look at verse 1 again, because you never read it. You listen and follow others. You follow the precepts of men, just as promised in Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 13. Revelation chapter 14, verse 1 says, I quote, "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads," end quote. Can you explain that? I don't see 144,000. I have the conjunction "and" that sits between 40 and 4. I also have "an" without the D that sits before 140. So where'd you get 144,000 from? Anyway, I don't have anything else to say to you. I'm out of here. To wit, you cannot prove morally, righteously, and justly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I am not the son of the God of the Hebrews, until you can prove righteously, morally, justly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, who is the son of the God of the Hebrews.
Hallelujah, Yahweh. Kazak Ve'ema. Baruch Hashem, Yahweh. What is our motto? What is our motto? We're all for one. We work for our brothers and sisters. What about soup? Praise Yahweh. How do we love Yahweh? And how do we love our brothers and sisters? Praise Yahweh. What is the duty of a Hebrew man? What is the duty of a Hebrew woman? And what if he returns from the law? Praise Yahweh. What time is it? What makes up a nation? What makes up families? And if either turns from the law, and if either are weak, praise Yahweh. Praise Yahweh. Psalms 100. Praise Yahweh. What color is Yahweh Almighty? What color are all the prophets? What color is his son? What color is the nation of Israel? How many tribes of Israel? What's the name of the fourth tribe? What did Yahweh choose Judah to do? What did Yahweh choose Judah to do? How long? How long is forever? Praise Yahweh. What did Yahweh choose black Judah to do? How long?